HGMTV电话去当寂寞，不曾了解高声中。HGMTV 电话说着等，找梦到梦，嫁给人我。
Me and my late husband, we met in middle school. So in 8th grade, we started talking. We were just little kids then, and who knew that we were going to end up getting married. We dated throughout high school, and we were kids, so we had our ups and downs. But after we graduated, we decided to get married. He wanted to join the military at that time, but his parents didn't want him to, so then we got married. We have 3 kids together, so 1 girl and 2 boys. I know that he wanted to be in the military, so I supported him with that. He did his training, and then in July of 2009, we moved down to Texas, where he was stationed for his first duty station. We stayed there for about a few months, maybe 4 or 5 months, because when the shooting happened in November of 2009, he was one of the victims from that Fort Hood shooting. Around that time, he was getting deployed, so he had to go do his physical and medical stuff to make sure that he passes to get deployed overseas. I had gone to a neighbor's house, and I found out that there was a shooting on base, and so I panicked, and I didn't know what to do, because just me and my kids down there with him. And at that time, my kids, the youngest, Jonah, was only 10 months, and then Devin was only 2 years, and the kid was only 4 years old, so big. So I didn't know what to expect. I made phone calls back home, letting them know what's happening, and they were watching on the news too. They knew, and so I couldn't get a hold of him at all. And then I just tried to think the best of it, that maybe he just got injured, or maybe he's getting treated at the hospital. It wasn't until maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, and I got that knock on the door. You only see it in movies, or you hear stories about it, but there was 2 military personnel at the door, and I opened the door for them, and they verified my late husband, if his name, his social, and so I did verify it, and that was when they told me that he had passed. We moved back here, and I kind of had a downward spiral. I was in depression and in denial. But at that time, I didn't know what was going on. But I was just feeling things to not remember or not think about the tragedy. I moved to live back with my parents, so they did pray for me a lot. My mom always told me to come back to church, come back to seek God. But after my late husband passed away, I was just so angry at God because, we grew up going to church, and my parents took us to church every day. And, even though we moved to Texas, I still prayed a lot. I read the Bible, I don't know, I felt like I was a good person, like I didn't get into trouble, I did what I needed to do, and I felt like it was a punishment from God. And so I did spiral down, I fell into depression, and I started drinking a lot to mask all that hurt and all that pain, just so I don't have to think about it, or I don't have to worry, or forget it. And the years following I was a mess, and I just kept digging myself in a deeper hole. But I was so mad at God that why did He take my husband away from me? So I stopped coming to church. I was, drinking Thursday to Sunday, and then, I don't know, like one day I was just so tired of it because, drinking was just a temporary high where, like I don't remember at that moment, but then the next day, all the stress and worry, comes flooding back in, and my kids were growing up, and they were observing me, and they were seeing me go through all of that, and I woke up and was just like, what am I doing? I don't want my kids to learn these things. I want them to be better, and I want to be better for them too. So I did start coming to church slowly, but I wasn't fully immersing myself in reconnecting my relationship with God. It wasn't until one time my family, they wanted to go to the club, and so I went with them, but I had my intention was just to go with them, and I didn't want to drink, I didn't want to do anything, and I was going to be the designated driver so that I'll just drive them home. And in that experience, I just saw the environment around me, and it was not appealing at all. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been immersing myself in this kind of environment, seeing people just drunk and, falling all over the place. And I'm like, oh my gosh, was this me, And I'm like, in that moment, I just knew that, okay, I'm never gonna step foot into a club ever again, and I don't want my kids to even think that this is even okay to do, So I eventually stopped going out, and I slowly stopped cutting myself from drinking to the point where, I would just black out, and, I don't remember what happened the next morning, and I talked to my kids, and, my kids to, tell me, I'm so embarrassed because my kids would tell me what happened the next day, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a better mom for you guys, and, I'm sorry. I don't want them to think that it's okay at all, or I don't want them to go through the same thing. I want to be a better mom for them. So I was, sleeping at night, and I was talking to God, and I was like, I'm in this hole that, I can't get myself out of, and I don't know that only you can help me out of this, and I told God that, I'll do whatever you want me to do, and so this is the life that I know now, is all that I know, and I know that I'll be giving up a lot. I'll be giving up all my friends and, things that I'm familiar with, but I know that all those things are not good for me, so I told God that, I'll go back to church, and, I just want you to send me a community that will love me and accept me for who I am and what I am. So I started coming back to church on Sundays, and at first it was just for the main service, and I'll just go home, and then I eventually started being active with the Alliance Women. And at first, it's like I told myself, I'm going for God and for myself, and I don't care if I don't have any friends or nobody talks to me. I'm just gonna go because I know that only God can save me and God can pull me out of this darkness. So I started going to church, attending Alliance Women, and God started sending people in my life to help guide me and help shape me, and so I was asked to be part of the Alliance Women praise and worship team. So that's how I started serving in the church. And then I took TEE, and then I didn't get baptized for a while because I felt that I needed to be perfect before I get baptized. And so I battled a lot with that, and with just talking to my friends here, and just reading the Bible more, I came to realization that I don't have to be perfect to get baptized. God accepts me as who I am, and He will mold me and shape me into the person that He wants me to be. So I think in 2015 or 16, around there, I got baptized, and I just started growing my faith, reading the Bible. I joined our small groups here, which helped me a lot as well. At that time when I started coming back, we had a single parents ministry, which was a great support group. We go through life together. We shared about our struggles, and we encourage each other to, continue to just, fight the battle, because, these are temporary things that God sends us to teach us, for us to learn and to grow. So I was in that group for maybe 5 or 6 years as well. And since I started serving, I brought my kids to church too, and I always involve them in every ministry that I do. They're always with me when I have to come in early in the morning. And, if we go pray or anything, I would take them with me. Even our small groups, I do take my kids with me too. And so just giving myself up, God had already, taught me so much, and He's blessed me with so many things, and I'm so grateful that I made that leap and that jump just to get to where I am today. Because if I didn't make that sacrifice or that get out of my comfort zone, I don't think I would be here today. My kids, they started coming to church too, so they learned so much, and they would ask me those questions, like, Mom, we go to church, but why you do this, or why are you doing that, and that was really eye-opening for me. So I think my kids were, really opening my eyes to a lot of those things, like what I'm doing wrong. And when they started asking me those things, that's when I realized, hey, you know what, I can't keep doing this, so they did help me change the way I am. I am really thankful for my kids, because if it wasn't for them, like, I don't think I would be here today. I fought every day for my kids, because they lost their dad, and just thinking of them losing me as well was one thing that kept me here. And then I'm thankful for my parents, my mom, because she always talked to me and reminded me about God's love, and that no matter what I did, that God will always accept me back. And then, just for my church community as well, for not judging me, for accepting me, loving me for who I am, and, just being a great support system for me. I have 5 sisters too, and we are really close. I go seek comfort in them too, but they comfort me in different ways than my church community. And my church community has given me a lot of hope and faith that life gets better. Like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and to just keep fighting and be strong. I'm no longer angry at God. I understand now that those were things that showed me to be a better person. All the trials and tribulations are what molded me to who I am today. I've learned a lot through those challenging times in my life, and I know that it was probably for my own good, and a lot of the things that I went through, I understand now that it wasn't God, but it was my own human nature that I strayed away from, and those were just the consequences of the decisions that I made. And so I'm just so happy that God is such a loving God, that no matter how far I strayed away from Him, or no matter what I did, that He still forgave me when I asked for forgiveness, and He still gave me the grace to be here today and be a child of God. God has been there every step of the way and took me out of this depression or dark cloud that I was in. My journey as I came to Christ, I've tested him multiple times to see, if, he was real, and he is real. He has never disappointed me when I started walking my faith with him. And even financially, I'm a single mom, and while I was going to school, I was only working part-time. I don't know how I made things meet, but I've never been late on bills. I've always paid my mortgage on time. I don't know how I did it, going to school, having a part-time job and 3 kids. But when I look back, I know that God was really there, because when I add all my financials together and I calculate how much I make and how much the bills cost every month, it doesn't make sense at all, but somehow I get through month by month, and so it is real. God is real, and I know that God was with me the whole time as I find myself again. I know that it's tough, going through it by yourself, day in and day out, it's tough, but don't give up. Have the hope of Jesus Christ that, that He's there with you. Find a community if they're not currently in a church community that I encourage you to find the community to walk life with, and anywhere that you go, that there's always someone that will help and will support you. That this is not the end, and there's hope at the end of it. So yeah.